Hi, everyone, and welcome to TLC's Webinar Wednesday. We're so glad you can join us today for this webinar. And back to school is in season right now. I'm already starting to get the ads on TV. I know some of our early start schools are dusting off the desks and coming back into session. So we've got a couple of school-related topics we're going to be sharing with you today. And before I get into those and introduce our speakers, I do have some housekeeping. First and foremost, we are recording. So if you get interrupted, need to walk away, or want to share this with your colleagues in the next couple of days, that is going to be available starting tomorrow on our website. And second, because you all are here live, we really appreciate that. And you get the opportunity to ask our panelists questions. So if you think of anything at any point, please add that to the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. And we'll get to those definitely at the end of the session. And we have a breaking spot in the middle where we can find a couple more questions as well. So I am joined today by Ashley Chassé and Jenna Thorne. And we are going to be discussing TLC Class Shelf Plus and Library.Solution for schools. So first up is that TLC Class Shelf Plus. So we're hearing from a lot of schools right now that they are looking to do more ways to manage their classroom collections. Those are the books that are in those classrooms, a lot of the times that the teachers are bringing in. So Ash is going to show us a really cool tool that we offer from TLC to be able to do that. And then also we'll switch over to Jenna, who's going to be talking about textbook management and all the ways that you can manage those other materials like textbooks through your Library.Solution for Schools ILS platform without having to go out and get a secondary system. So that is my spiel. Ash, thank you for joining us. I'll pass to you first.
Thanks, Ria, and hello everyone. My name is Ashley Chassé. I'm a librarian and account marketing specialist here at TLC. I've worked in and with libraries for over a decade, and I'm excited to show you TLC Class Shelf Plus. Class Shelf Plus is a classroom collection management solution, like Ria mentioned, developed with librarians by the Children's Literature Comprehensive Database, or you might know them as CLCD, to aid districts in complying with policy changes and legislations regarding classroom library collections, or for those schools interested in doing a little bit more classroom collection management. For many districts, classroom teachers will submit a list of books in their classrooms for review by a media specialist. And once the media specialist approves the titles, a publicly accessible list of those titles will be available to share to parents or guardians of the students in the room. And this can all be done with Class Shelf Plus. So we are going to check it out. This is Class Shelf Plus. Class Shelf Plus, like I said, is a very easy to use, well, I don't know if I said it, but it's a very easy to use program. And we're going to start by going through the 4 levels of account users, starting with the classroom teacher. His name is Mr. John Price. And when John logs into his Class Shelf account, he sees that he's at Harrison Middle School. He has 2 unique collections that he manages. This can be just, or for the majority of teachers, it may just be their 1 classroom. And the statistics on where his titles are at. Have they been approved? Does he need to look at more information? Are there still some pending that he's waiting to put on the shelf? Oh, you'll notice that when I go through each of these accounts, the layout is very similar so that there's no confusion if someone changes roles or if someone leaves and we find a new person. Training on this is very simple. For John, though, he wants to upload some titles to his collection, and there are 2 ways that this can that you can do this. One, John will select his classroom, and he can beep in with a scanner a list of the items or titles that he wants to add. Where Class Shelf Plus matches off of ISBN, so that's how it will connect with with a database that provides more information about each title, and you'll see that in a minute. You can also browse and upload classroom collection list. It can be just a regular text file that will process in bulk. So let's submit, and there we go. John's selection has been approved, or John's uploads have been successful. Once that's complete, John can then go to manage his collection. This might look like a lot, but it's quite simple. The key up here will tell you what the color means, including the newest titles he's added, which are pending review, titles that may not have been approved by the librarian or by the final administrator who may do the final review of every title, and the titles that have been reviewed, and any titles that may be required to be removed from the classroom. Now again, the reason that ClassShelf Plus was developed was to help teachers or to help school districts in some of the states where this is now a requirement for all classroom collections, and to be as broad a scope as it can be to ensure that our librarians and our teachers are able to put the books back on the shelves. Now, that's it. John's done, and it's ready to move on to our librarian. Our librarian at Harrison Middle School is Mike. And there we go. Mike is going to see a different dashboard view. He's going to start by seeing a list of every teacher that is in the school that he is the librarian of. And by clicking on each teacher, each classroom where the titles need to be managed. He can see the statistics on all titles that are still in pending or are ready for review or have been reviewed already. And by going to the sidebar again, that very familiar view, you can go to Manage a Collection. Again, very similar, very easy UX. What Mike will do now, he will select his organization, and the reason this is here is that we all know some librarians, or you may be one of those, who work at different schools or are a floating librarian. That is not unusual. So he'll select the school and then the teacher that he is waiting, or that he is working on their collection. Now we can look at the newest titles will show up on the top that have been added. Mike can see some information being pulled in from the CLCD Enterprise database, which has a very comprehensive amount of information about each title. You can view a general overview of the title, information, any annotations, subjects, publication details, and that can help Mike make more informed decisions, or just as a reminder of what the title might be if it's been a while. And if it's all good and he's happy, he'll approve it. Once a title is approved, turns green, and he's good to go to the next. Now, Mike also has the ability to change his mind, like all of us, and he may think that a title that he wasn't quite sure of at the beginning, actually he wants to approve now. He can reverse his decision, and the title will turn green. Mike can also reject a title, and the next person who will be doing the final review will manage whether that title actually is or is not approved. You can see that there's a lot of titles here, and we'll see what that looks like again soon. When Mike's work is done, the next person who will be managing the process is going to be our principal, Wendy. Wanda. My apologies. So what Wanda is seeing is, as the principal or final administrator within a district, she'll see every name of every teacher in her district, or in her school, and she will see the statistics on each classroom collection. This lets her know that titles have been approved, are pending, or are rejected, and the total amount of titles in that collection. Pending titles can actually be approved or rejected right from the principal's screen if the librarian hasn't been able to get to it. And as the final decision maker, Wanda can just select and say it's approved, and this will reflect back in Mike's list. She also sees the same amount of information as Mike had about the titles that have been uploaded. And she can decide which ones. Using the filters again, she can also look at approved titles, rejected and removed, all the titles, all the things. And this is where in some cases, this is the person that has to make the final choice. In other cases, you can skip the media specialist role, where there's that middle person between the classroom teacher and the final decision maker, and just make the media specialist the decision maker. There's more to what Wanda can do as well in the system. Wanda also has the ability to manage users. We can bulk upload users for you when you first implement, and then as you go along, you can add new users one at a time. If, say, you have a new teacher or a new media specialist who needs to be added, and you choose which role they play. You can see a list of all of our teachers and our media specialists. And then you can invite new users. You can enter IDs or email addresses associated with all of the individuals and leave a personal note and tell them, welcome teacher to Harrison Middle School. It's time to get your collection all together. When Wanda's done, the process is done. That means all the titles that are available for the classroom that have been approved are good to go. But there is one final user level. That user is a district administrator, and you might think of that as someone like the superintendent, but that's probably not going to be the district administrator. It may be someone like a curriculum director or a VP of library services, however your school district organizes, and whoever you choose. This brings us to Tony. One thing to note about Tony as the district administrator level is that she does not have the ability to approve or reject titles for a specific school approved by a specific librarian and a specific principal or the specific media specialist and second final approval individual. This is all about seeing the high level information such as licensing, overall statistics regarding the district, and statistics for each school individually. The important rules here are that as schools are added or removed from a district, the district administrator can add an organization and then begin adding individuals to that school. CLCD has also recently released a managed collections auto approval system where the library or the school district creates a set of criteria that will automatically approve titles in the list and then the rest of the titles will remain pending, so that the second step is the media specialist making a review of the remaining titles. Again, we see the similar view where the administrator can see titles that have been added to the collections. And when we go to our user management, we see all of our users, but next to each teacher is a little icon that looks like a computer. That icon opens up a very simple list of every title available in the classrooms. This is Mr. Price in classroom 105. And these are all the titles currently available for his students to borrow from his classroom library. And that is Class Shelf Plus. There's so much more to it that we can explore. So if you're looking for more information about Class Shelf Plus, we're going to have a quick little poll. So if you're interested in learning more or speaking with one of TLC's amazing representatives, just click yes, no, or maybe so.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. That poll
Yeah.
should be launching right now. So I'll leave it up for just a moment. And while our presenters are switching screens, I'll share with our audience that the last screen that Ash was showing, where you can get that whole list of everything available in those classrooms, those have been really useful for some of those schools that are required to be able to show their collections. So getting a nice list to be able to share with their parents so they can see what's going on. All right, let me go ahead and end that poll. And Ash, we did get a few questions if you want to take
Oh,
those now before we pass it.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes. Well, I
just two
figure out
questions.
how to unshare.
Oh, no, that's okay. You can leave Jenna's screen. Or Jenna, are you sharing? Yeah, okay,
Oh,
perfect. Yep. Ash, your first question is, if a title has been marked for removal by the district, do teachers get notified?
teachers have the ability to create notifications for each, and I forgot to tell you, each teacher can set up a notification weekly or daily that will tell them exactly what has happened in the school. I am not 100% certain about the specifics of a title that needs to be removed, but I'll take that back to our contact over at CLCD to double check on that for you.
Great, thanks. And our second question is, can teachers see what other teachers' collections are?
The only way to see a collection is to have the link directly to the list of all titles. So for example, some teachers may choose to share their list school-wide. Some may only choose to share it with the students and their parents or guardians within that classroom. And others may choose for it to be publicly available to everybody within their community, even those who don't have um, a direct link to the school district. So in that way, if a teacher shares their list with another teacher, absolutely they can see it. But there's no searchable way to find that unless you are a media specialist or a principal. Those levels, that's what they're called.
All right, thank you, Ash. And if you do have more questions,
Mhm.
please get those in the questions panel and we'll get to those at the end if you think of anything else. But now we'll go ahead and pass over to Jenna to talk about textbook management.
Hey, thanks, Ria. Hey, everyone. I'm Jenna Thorne, a school librarian and circulation product manager here at TLC. Today, I want to talk about managing textbooks in Library.Solution for schools. We know that effective textbook management is really crucial to ensure students have access to the right materials, but also to reduce losses and inefficiencies. The Library.Solution for schools provides a very powerful integrated approach to managing textbook collections, and we do that using the same efficiencies we do for managing library resources. So by leveraging Library.Solution for schools, you can really streamline your inventory management, track distribution, reduce losses, and generate insightful reports for better resource allocation. We have found that every school district has its own approach to managing textbooks. And as you can see in the images, some prefer to circulate directly to the school from the school library. Some circulate from the school to the classroom and then maybe to the students or the teacher. And then others use a centralized location to distribute to each school and classroom. One thing remains the same throughout, though. Someone must oversee the inventory, condition, and distribution of textbook collections, whether that's a district administrator, teacher librarian, or classroom teacher. Some schools rely heavily on manual systems to track textbook collections using spreadsheets or ledgers. And these methods can be prone to errors and really require a lot of work to generate meaningful reporting and data-driven analytics. Others may pay expensive subscription prices for dedicated textbook management systems, often in addition to an existing library management system. So today we want to highlight that school districts can harness the power of their library management system to manage textbooks and library materials in one platform, eliminating costs and maximizing the possibilities. Let's talk about the things that you should consider before you begin. As with any project in the library or school or district, really understanding all the needs and your why help to play a critical role in the success of the implementation. So here are some things to think about. How long do items circulate? With textbooks, that can be a whole year. Sometimes it could be multiple years if you have resources that span several grade levels. Maybe it's a semester. Lots of things to consider there and understand about how long those items are going to need to circulate. Where do you want the items to circulate? So are these textbooks or resources staying in the library? Are they circulating out to the classroom and then to students, or just staying in the classroom? Some other things to consider are whether you have a centralized location to house the items. Maybe they get distributed to each school location or each school library from that centralized location. Something else to consider: if you do allow your teachers and staff and even students to browse these resources in your OPAC, how do you want those borrowers to distinguish the location of the textbooks? You have a lot of options in library.solution for schools on how you want to do that with shelf location and holdings codes and custom library fields. So thinking through if you want them to view these items and how they will know where to look for them as they browse, if that's the type of setup that you have. Something else to consider: are you shipping items between locations? I mentioned that centralized location. So you could be shipping from there and sometimes maybe even between school locations. Let's say you have a couple of elementary schools in a district, maybe they're sharing resources. So if shipping is involved, consider thinking through that piece before you begin as well. And finally, really understanding your needs around reporting. What type of reporting is required? Are you going to need just basic end of year inventory and circulation reporting? Are you going to need that throughout the year or at certain points in the fiscal year? Thinking through that piece is going to be very helpful as well. With library.solution for schools, school districts can manage their textbook collections flexibly in ways that they need to. Some common workflows include these options here, or a combination. Of course, within those options, there's flexibility. And like I mentioned before, every district is different in how they distribute textbooks. So this is just going to highlight a couple of different ways you can do it. In the first option, textbooks and equipment are just stored in the library. Maybe there's an extra space and they're circulated from there. So each school library location would have a textbook holdings code. The items can be checked out to students or teachers, maybe for a year-long period with a due no later than date set to the end of the current school year. And that would be the specific holdings code where you would have all of those records. And that could look like this in LS2 cataloging, where you've got the owning holdings code as a high school and their textbook collection. And here we use the shelf location also as an additional identifier, with TB as the prefix and then math 8 as the identifier. So just one way to do that. With the second option, there's a couple of different methods with this, but overall, this example shows textbooks and equipment are stored in the classrooms, and maybe they're just circulated to teachers and that's it. Maybe they're also circulated to students from there. So the first method would be with a new holdings code created for each individual classroom with the holdings code labeled the classroom number. So maybe TB 101 for textbook room 101. And each textbook for that classroom can be cataloged into that holdings code. So this allows for easy reporting in regards to pulling a list of what textbooks are currently in a specific classroom or what textbooks should be in that classroom based on the holdings code labeled as the classroom number. So that's one way to do it. And you see we've got the owning location as Cedar Creek High School, and then the collection is classroom 101. So you might have 30 copies in that one holdings code. And then another collection could be named Classroom 102, and you have an additional 30 copies there. So that's one way to do it. The second method is where you use a single holdings code per school. So Cedar Creek High School would have a textbook owning collection. And then instead of using the holdings code or the owning collection, I would use the shelf location in this method to really be clear about the room number that it lives in. So for the shelf location on this one, I put Math 8, room 101. So knowing that it's a math textbook and it lives in room 101, and that easily identifies where it is in the building. Option 3 is with textbooks and equipment kind of stored centrally, like I mentioned before, and then they're moved to the schools for each school year. This method really works best for school districts that may have a central cataloger or a central location where all books are first cataloged and then sent out to individual locations, or a distribution warehouse. So textbooks and equipment can be managed in the same way that the library materials are managed in that transportation distribution part. So each school can have a single collection called TB or textbooks, in which the textbooks reside in. And when they're cataloged, the owning holdings code would be set for that central location, with active holdings code set for the location that will be receiving and circulating the textbooks. So here we've got the central district as the owning location, and then it circulates at Cedar Creek High School. That way you can send them back to the centralized location at the end of the year, or you can keep them at the school location, maintaining that owning location of central in place so that it's understood that it's a different type of item than library materials. So we talked a little bit about records, but how do we get all of these records into our system? Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. The first way starts with the title record. In fact, all options start that way. You have to have that in place in order to add items to it. But TLC can work with you to bulk upload additional items to those records. Items can be batch uploaded into library.solution for schools by TLC, and our support team will really work with you to either have you fill out a spreadsheet similar to the one shown here, or we can help you fill it out. We can fill it out for you if you give us some of the parameters. There's another method that where again, you create a title record, and then you do an initial template in the LS2 catalog for the item. And then you can just duplicate those item records up to 100 at a time. So depending on the size of the collection, that might dictate which method you use to get these items into the system. But there are always options, and TLC is right there to help you to get it configured the way you want and make sure that all the metadata is correct. So from here, I want to show you kind of what those records will look like in LS2 cataloging and LS2 pack. So here you see I've got a math textbook that I have cataloged, and I've got all of the metadata here associated with that title. And then I have added 101 items to to this title record, and I've got kind of varying ways that I did that. So this first one is as the owning location as that central district. And the shelf location also kind of helps them distinguish it's TB Math 8 so that they know it's math as opposed to a different subject. And then here I've got that kind where I definitely added the room number and kind of the classroom specific information to the shelf location. So let's see what this looks like if I were to have students and teachers browsing for these items. And let's see what it looks like. So here you can see it in LS2 pack. They can view it. They can see all the different copies and the status and all the information around that. Um, so there's last thing I want to show you is that library.solution for schools can really extend beyond textbook management by offering schools the ability to track and manage additional school resources, including technical equipment, laptops and tablets, projectors, musical instruments, STEM or STEAM kits. There's really a variety of different smaller collections that a lot of our customers manage in library.solution for schools. I just want to show you what that looks like. So here you'll see I have a steel triangle that is cataloged. There's 66 items here. And this is a little different. The owning location is music. So we created a separate location for musical items in the district. And then you'll see the owning collection identifies them as percussions. So you could have it organized that way. And then the shelf location really gives that detail of Cedar Creek High Music Room. So we know exactly where it's located. So that is another way to think about either managing textbooks or other collections that you might have. And let's take a look at what that looks like in pack. And here you see same thing. It's so it's not a book. It's the format here is object, and same thing. I can see all the copies. I can see um, where they're housed and all of that. So just another way to think about organizing collections in library.solution for schools. Um, okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Ria now.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. And we do have a quick poll we'll launch, similar to the last one. If you're interested in learning more about those textbook management options, there should be a poll coming up on your screen in just a moment. Yes, please contact me. Maybe, or not at this time. Thanks. No wrong answers there. But while you're filling that out, if you have any questions, please add those to the Q&A widget, and I'll get to those in just a moment. And one of the things I wanted to point out is when Jenna was navigating between LS2 cataloging and LS2 pack, one of the nice things about including those textbooks or those musical instruments in your catalog is that you can very nicely click between the two. So if you're a cataloger and you want to see what that looks like for your public, it has that nice interlinking capability. And we've also received information from some of our customers who have RFID'd a lot of their textbooks and a lot of their musical instruments. So that's just another benefit as well. If you wanted to be able to do quick inventories of those materials, that's also an option too. All right, let me go ahead and close that poll off. We did get a few questions in for you, Jenna. Let me click over to that tab. So the first one is, does this process work for other content like classroom sets of materials? So similar to textbooks, but more classroom focused.
Yes, you could have, again, that same title record and all of the items underneath it, and then you check it out to the teacher for the school year or for however long you needed to. Yeah, absolutely. It's a flexibility in the holdings code and how you label it.
Yeah, nice to be able to see it work for a number of different use cases. And another question is, what kind of analytics are available for textbooks?
We have really rich reporting in LS2 reports. So we have a number of standard reports that can work for textbook management. And also if you have an authoring license, or if you can pay for an extra service of an authoring, our reports product manager can create the report that you want that gives you the analytics that you need.
Right, thanks, Jenna. And I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I think that's probably what we're going to get. If you're still typing a question, go ahead and hit enter now, and I'll come back to you in just a moment. But I'll go ahead and do our closing out, and I'll see if any other questions come in. So One thing we like to let folks know is that TLC is an awarded vendor with a number of cooperative purchasing. So if you're looking for a new library management system, you can find us through GSA, Choice Partners, or Equalis Group and skip the RFP process. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please reach out and let us know. And at the beginning of the webinar, I mentioned that we are recording, and that will be available starting tomorrow on our website, which is on the next slide at tlcdelivers.com/webinars. So if you want to share this with a colleague, go back and rewatch some of those favorite parts. That will be available starting tomorrow. And because it is back to school season, we do also have a back to school checklist to help you get started with the new year ahead. So if that is something that's interesting to you, please reach out. We'll have a link to that in our follow-up email as well. If you're watching this recorded later, you can reach out to TLC at any time and grab that checklist. So Ash, Jenna, thank you both so much for your expertise today. You both did a great job, and it was super informative for our schools to find out what options that they have. Thank you both. And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you on the next webinar.